Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, and as promised today I'm going to be reading this article entitled How the Banking System Really Works, and this is included as part of the November 2020 edition of The Light Paper, a truth paper, the link to which will be in the description, so please go ahead and visit the website where you can download the paper for free. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's get this onto full screen mode so those who wish to can read alongside me. Okay, and this article is written by, gone up too far, Sam Roberts. Okay, so Henry Ford is quoted as saying, "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." Although this is paraphrasing him, what he did say is that the people are on the side of sound money. And thanks to the bankers' actions and tricks, these days we do not have a sound money system. Every modern society creates their currency in a similar way. The system is a duopoly of central banks and governments. A politician gets into office because they promise the people as much as possible, but in order to deliver, the government has to go into debt. This is called deficit spending. The central bank buys government bonds and private sector assets, for example £300 billion worth, from an account with a balance of nothing. Now wait a minute. If you or I wrote out a string of bad cheques like this, they'd not only bounce, but we'd be put in prison for fraud. In effect, when the central bank pays for these bonds, currency that never existed before is magically created. The government and central banks are simply swapping glorified IOUs with nothing to back them but more IOUs. This process repeats and repeats, enriching those closest to this money creation due to the Cantillon effect, and indebting the public evermore by raising the national debt. The other part to this money creation is via the commercial banks. They have also been given a license to legally counterfeit currency. Although we might assume this, the banks do not actually hold and look after our money. When we deposit, we become a creditor of the bank. We do not own that money anymore. They can do what they like with it, including gambling it on the stock market and loaning it out and charging interest. They only have to keep a tiny fraction of it in reserve, if any. This is called fractional reserve lending. It is naively assumed, and never corrected, that banks were successful companies that had built up over time and lent out their hard-earned money to us, that they deserved the interest they received as profit. However, every time you take a loan out, including a mortgage, this is almost entirely currency created out of thin air by the banks, and they have the cheek to charge compound interest on it. This is the sign of a broken society, when those who do no work earn more than those who do all the work. If you look at the breakdown of who earns from a house sale, you will see that over the course of a mortgage, the bank receives more money than the company and workers that built the house in the first place. When governments deficit spend, they create currency in the billions and trillions these days. Yet, amazingly, around 95% of currency is created not by this method, but by bank loans. But we, the people, have to work for some of that currency supply. We give value to that currency that someone else just typed into existence on a computer. We work hard and we pay tax to the government so that they can pay back the central bank, plus interest, for borrowing of them when they didn't actually have a penny to lend in the first place. More and more of our taxes don't even go to schools, hospitals and other public services. They go to paying off the interest on these debts. Bailouts and stimulus programs supposedly to help the country are not helping the people. They are plundering the people. You can't produce true wealth by just printing currency. True wealth is all the goods and services that we create for each other. A free market transaction benefits both parties, and the prosperity of both parties is raised. The free market is responsible for our prosperity. It is the economy, not the numbers they conjure up on computers. This is why the GDP goes down and asset prices go up, and we end up in a very painful stagflation. This expansion of the currency supply is called inflation. Prices increase merely to match the supply. Inflation is a stealth tax, constantly stealing wealth from us, the vast majority of workers not at the top of the chain, and transferring to those nearest to the funnel of a newly created currency, those groups that don't earn their wealth, namely the bankers, politicians, and their many cronies in many industries. Our current monetary system is nothing but a form of legalised theft. They know it, and they rely on the public being ignorant. The banking system is based on large-scale fraud, as was proved in the aftermath of the 2008 crisis and many recent news stories. Yet no one was sent to prison because they self-regulate and have too much influence on the halls of power. The concentration of wealth has only grown since the last crash because the bankers' increasing share of power and influence via lobbying and rent-seeking, corruption and stamping out market newcomers. But ultimately you can't beat money printing for power. You can't expect to give the power to create money to a small special interest group and not expect it to corrupt them. Deficit spending and inflation means that they can create currency to pay for anything, including wars and huge losses of life that would not be possible without this system. If people knew about this fraud en masse, then there could be action taken to abolish it. But of course our education system does not teach us about money and how the system actually works, so the vast majority of us remain ignorant. For generations we have been taught to be prudent and save. We have taught those good values to our children, unaware that this is bad advice, now more so than ever. It is not... Oh, sorry. Let me go back up. Oh, gosh. It is not our fault that we don't know the intricacies of the system and that this is bad advice. It is the criminal actions of the banks that make it so. All this manipulation is the cause of artificial booms and busts of modern Keynesian economics. And when there's a crash, who gets wiped out? Is it ever the banking elites? Or do they squirrel their fortunes away, earn even more by shorting the market and buy even more in the fire sale soon after? This system that serves the few over the many doesn't work. Currently we are stuck in a terribly elitist system that needs abolishing. But this is incredibly hard to achieve until more people understand, object and withdraw from this fraudulent and corrupt system that is undermining the economy and ability of ordinary people to build wealth and capital. Those who understand the current monetary system can help protect themselves against what is going on, and what is very likely to emerge in the coming months as the banking cartel move towards their ultimate goal. An indebted, completely cashless society where all economic transactions of any size can be tracked, taxed and curtailed for any reason of their choosing, leading to the end of freedom of choice for most individuals on earth. For the golden rule is, he who controls the gold makes the rules. Precious metals are indeed well known as a good line of defence during any currency problems that may lie ahead. Okay. Now, this is the article I'll be reading next time, Why We Need to Reclaim Power Over Our Health by Kelly Jones. And if you're interested in that article today, there are multiple excellent YouTube videos. There's documentaries available on Netflix which explain in more detail how our monetary system works and why it was created in that way. Okay, so the link to this will be in the description. If I can find any of those videos and documentaries, I'll link them also. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.